Hi everyone, welcome to Outgrow's Market of the Month. I'm your host Saksham Sharda. I'm the creative director at Outgrow. And for this month, we're going to interview Chad Sanderson, who is the managing partner at Value Selling Associates and the host of the award-winning B2B Revenue Executive Experience podcast. Hi, Chad.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Great to have you here. So we're going to start with a rapid fire round just to break the ice. Try to keep your answers to one word or one sentence only.
I'm nervous. Okay.
Okay. How long does it take you to get ready in the mornings?
15 minutes.
Okay. How many hours of sleep can you survive on?
Survive on. 5.
Okay. Neil Patel or Gary Vaynerchuk?
Vaynerchuk.
Okay. Favorite fictional character in an office space?
Oh, favorite fictional character say that last part again,
In an office, in an office space, yeah.
Favorite fictional character in an office space. If anybody remembers the movie Office Space, the manager that was always asking for the TPS reports cracks me up all the time.
I'm going to Google that later, but okay. The next one is the biggest mistake of your career.
Of my career. Ooh. Biggest mistake of my career. I accepted a job outside of my comfort zone in an industry I did not know. And that was a large failure.
Okay. The next question is giving presents or getting presents?
Giving.
Okay, same. How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
None. I am not a coffee drinker.
Wow. My God. So the marketing you produce would be so different from all the marketing you produce. Oh, wait. How many? Okay, I already asked that one. The most valuable skill you've learned in life?
Listening.
Everyone says that. The past 10 people on this podcast are like listening. I'm like, okay.
Well, and if I had to go with like the because to me they're intimately intertwined, but I would say asking questions, and I think for me they're exactly the same importance.
Okay, yeah. Fill in the blank. An upcoming marketing trend is blank.
Social authenticity and empathy.
Okay. And finally, the last question. Your favorite Tiger King character?
I would have to go with Carol Baskin just because she's such a piece of work.
She's going to be Dancing with the Stars. Did you hear?
I know. I saw that. I don't know if I want to watch. I think it'll be like a train wreck. Like you'll look at it and you won't be able to turn away.
I have no idea what to expect. But yeah, that's the end of the rapid fire round and the fun questions. Now we're going to go to the serious questions. So the first one is, how can one avoid coming off as too salesy?
This is such a great question. And the answer is very easy if more people would just slow down a little bit. The easiest way is really to have a genuine curiosity about another human being's perspective, to ask the questions, to uncover what they find valuable, to tie to what their vision of something valuable is, to really set that groundwork for a consultative partnership. Too many people come in pushing their products or talking about, hey, me. And anybody who's ever been on a date with somebody who starts talking about themselves right off the bat, there's not going to be a second date. So we want to make sure we're focused on what they care about. And that just comes from a genuine sense of curiosity and empathy, I believe.
Yeah, and that's what it's related to like listening to people and asking the right questions and what you said about empathy earlier. Yeah. Okay. The next question is, do you think businesses care more about customer experience today than they did 20 years ago?
This is a great question. I'm going to say yes, but I think the reasons they care about it are often less noble today than they were originally. I think originally when people started to focus on customer experience, it was truly driven from a goal of developing a relationship with our customers, of understanding them, of being more responsive to their needs, of giving them an experience that was memorable, that improved their lives. I spent 10
Mm,
years in digital agencies where we focused on that, and that was our driving focal point. I think since people have started to see the metrics, the business metrics that come out of that, out of the data collecting or the pre-targeting you can do of your marketing stuff, and the way that that can drastically impact customer lifetime value, I think
mm,
organizationally, I've seen companies, let's say, not be as noble first, but think about the
mm,
business impacts first, and then try to tack on some noble initiatives. And so, yes, they care about it. I just think the reason they care about it has changed from a less, let's say, noble purpose when we first started caring about it.
mm. So you would think then that the course of history is towards a dystopian future, and we're just getting worse and worse.
I fight that. I fight it every day because i- we all take in so much information, we all see so much, and
Mm,
especially with the current world environment, and not just the pandemic but political and some of those things. I think it's not necessarily nefarious intent. I don't think that it
mm,
is coming from a place of a dark place, let's just say. I don't think it's coming from a place where people are inherently bad. I think what is happening is we are so targeting individuals and fracturing any shared common sense of reality. And as a result, you see polarization not only in political but in brand loyalty, and people that and I'll be up front. I'm a Harley Davidson rider. I'm
mm.
very drawn to that brand, and therefore I don't pay attention or necessarily see any of the marketing and or stories or anything for any other motorcycle brand. And if I pay attention to the marketing that is sent to me, the social media ads that show up, it's based off of what I've searched for, it's based off of what I'm looking at. And so I'm not being exposed to a bunch of different perspectives or different ideas or different things. And as a result, I think that has a tendency to silo individuals as well as organizations and their customers.
And how do you think then, because if 20 years ago the situation was better and has deteriorated now, that's a hard word to pronounce, deteriorated now, there must be something that fights back against this. And what do you think that is? Because, like, obviously, I think history goes in, like, circles. So I assume there is a force
Absolutely.
that's going to fight back against it. What is it? Where is it? Like, what do you
I,
think?
I, I think it has to come from, and I think it will be, is becoming personal accountability and personal awareness of the impacts that some of these things are creating. It takes a little bit of you know of awareness, like, why am I reacting the way I am reacting to an idea or a piece of marketing or a company that I really don't know anything about? Like, but
Mm.
just slowing down, taking a deep breath. I think people are naturally going to see it, and I think they're going to see it most in their children. I think that
Ah,
I
yeah.
think the
Mm,
children, the reactions that you're seeing with some of the kids, and quite honestly, the pandemic,
mm,
there are some bright sides to it. People being able to be home with their children and see what they're learning, how they're interacting, spending more time with them. I think there will be a natural awareness that comes from it, and people will start to say, "Hey, you know what? There's a reason that none of the tech executives in Silicon Valley allow their children on social media until they're older." Right? I think there will be an awakening and awareness just from proximity, and I think it'll be accelerated as a result of the pandemic, because if everybody's home together, they're spending a lot more time looking at each other, being around each other, and I think that
mm.
awareness will come from the way they're seeing these things impact their children.
Okay, all right. I love your clarity, by the way. I'm just like totally engrossed in what you're saying. All right, so the next question is very clear. The next question is, what are the limitations of virtual selling according to you?
Ooh, I would have said, but pre pandemic, I would have said the ability to build truly strong, trusting relationships. Now I'm talking about a B2B environment, right? So
Mm,
if I'm selling to a B2B organization and I'm trying to convince someone to purchase a product or a solution that we're providing, they're typically, they're putting their career on the line to back our solution, to say this is the right solution. Even if it's a committee based, somebody somewhere is going to be held accountable for that decision. And so trust is critical. And I think it was originally more difficult, I'd say, in the first 3 months as people were adjusting to virtual. But what I have seen in the last 3 months is actually we've all come up with ways to be more authentic and more vulnerable. When somebody's cat walks in front of the camera, you can't really give them a hard time anymore, or a kid runs across the background, or you hear another child somewhere maybe screaming, "Hey, dad, mom," or whatever, right? It's just becoming more human and more accepting as we're going through that. So I don't see trust as the hardest thing right now. What I would say right now is more of a challenge is the digital fatigue. Is
Mm.
literally just, I mean, people's calendars from the time they get up, in some cases, till far right before dinner or even after. I'm staring and stuck to a screen at a higher degree than I was before, even when I was walking around with my nose in my phone.
Mm.
There's a fatigue. It's a different psychological and cognitive load to be engaged and be focused on the individuals. And I think it takes it's a little more wear and tear. It takes a little bit more energy in a virtual selling environment right now.
Well, if there is a digital fatigue, do you think because of the pandemic, eventually people would learn to value reality more? I
I
mean,
would
would we go in
hope.
the other direction?
I would hope. I mean, I had 168,000 air miles last year. I traveled all over the world doing what I do, and I haven't been on a plane since February. That's the longest in 20 years I've gone without being on a plane. And at first, I was like, "Wow, this is great." I didn't realize how much time I was losing to the global commute, so to speak. Um,
Mm.
what I'm finding now is that I think we're all going to crave more reality and more human interaction, just because we've all been so isolated, even with the social distancing, and that stuff's going to be around for a while. And so I think it will be more special. I think we'll be more productive for a while as we come out the other side of this when people get together. But I think the reasons that, say, companies will get their teams together may be slightly different than what it was before. And I think those will be greater experiences, and quite honestly, an awesome way for companies to focus on employee experience. Like, let's get them out of their houses and let's get them together. But a lot of people also are pushing back. They've come to figure out that there is a quality to life that I get to spend more
Mm.
time with my family. I get to see my kids. So now, showing them the value, especially for work things, of coming out and doing
Mm.
events and things like that. I think marketers are up for a challenge in terms of getting those industry events back, and showing why I should be away from my family or my children. But now, granted,
Mm.
look, we all probably, I don't know about anybody else, but too much of a good thing is not necessarily good. And you know what? I might like to get away for a weekend or a couple of days in the week. Love the family, but just need some me time. But I think there will be a rubber band effect, and then it'll all level out somewhere in the middle, kind of like what we've seen from what happened after 9/11 and after the 2008 financial crisis in the U.S. I think there's a rubber band
True.
effect, and then it settles back into some new version of normal.
Yeah, that's a beautiful metaphor. Uh, I was going to say because Twitter initially announced that they were going to allow everyone to work from home forever, and I was just like, "Wow, that's a drastic step." But it did get them a lot of media attention, so I suppose that worked. And then there's this huge debate about whether it's even worth living in San Francisco anymore because you actually see that most of these companies can just make do having you work from home, but I guess you lose out on networking. So I guess it's a huge debate,
It's a
but it will
tough one. I
expand
mean,
around.
some of our clients have made the decision that they won't be bringing employees back into the office, won't even talk about bringing employees back into offices until the middle of next year. And
Mm.
that's a long time. I mean, you're talking about almost a full 12 months of virtual work. That creates new habits. It creates opportunity for new innovation, opportunities for new ways to connect. I mean, you saw, virtual happy hours happen for a while, and I've seen clients do virtual game shows with their teams, and I've seen one try to get out of the digital and do with postcards, like just to keep the employee engagement up, a contest of who can come up with the most creative postcard and mail it. So people were
Mm.
actually getting physical mail and stuff like that. So there's some creativity there, but I think it's going to be interesting. It depends. I think in the end, it depends on what kind of business you're in and how comfortable you are with how accountable and self-motivated your employees are.
Mhm. And the next question is kind of related to this. Do you have any tricks of the trade when it comes to effectively training and engaging teams in an increasingly, culture of work from home?
Yeah, so that's when the pandemic hit in March. So everything that we've done, I would say historically 80%, 90% of our business was all in person. Our training, rolling out the sales methodology and things that we do were always in person. But we did some virtual, but not a lot. But when the pandemic hit and everything shut down, we actually took the opportunity to invest in redesigning from the ground up our virtual sessions and the way we do things in virtual. We brought in consultants, we redesigned all the materials. We wanted to figure out what was the greatest, latest and greatest in learning in a digital environment, because there'd been a bunch of research done on it. We just wanted to employ it. So tips and tricks of the trade: every 3 to 5 minutes, you need to be having the people in your virtual training have their focal point changed. Meaning, you need to ask them a question and get them to respond in a chat box. You need to get them to annotate the screen. You need to put them in breakout rooms and let them work together. You need to have something physical they need to interact with, whether that be a workbook you have sent them, or you ask them to have paper, so that you are asking them to do an activity that requires them to write something down. So you're not having them just stare at the screen. They have to
Mhm.
be on a really regular cadence. They have to be engaged. So it changes kind of the structure of the learning, some of the way you do the activities. That's number one. Number two, anybody facilitating anything, you got to get creative, because your energy is critical. The way you speak, if you're standing up versus sitting, pay attention to that stuff, because it will change the way people engage, as well as the lighting. Don't be sitting in a dark room staring down at the camera so it looks like you're 20 feet tall, right? That still creates an imposing kind of thing. Be very aware of how you're coming across. Also, use to your advantage the cameras, because one of the things we've noticed, and I want to say since April, I've probably trained about 1,000 people in the last 6 months or so. So what we've noticed is that it's easier for me as a facilitator to see emotional reaction if everybody's camera is on and I have them in a
Mm.
grid view, right? Whereas if I'm doing a workshop in some windowless hotel room or conference room somewhere, people can hide. They can hide in the back of the room. You can't really see everybody's face. You can't see how engaged they are or are not. I've gotten really good at being able to tell if somebody's paying attention to me, or they're trying to get a Slack message out, or they're or they're trying to send an email. It's like, hey, I can see the reflection in your glasses, just so you know that I know you're not looking at my slide. So don't be afraid to make it fun. Keep them interacting every 2 to 3 minutes, and really, as a facilitator, it's on us to make sure we're providing the best learning experience, the excitement, and we're setting the stage.
That's interesting though how this culture has kind of changed because like we were working remotely even before the pandemic hit. For a long time we were working remotely. And in most cases, we discourage meetings and phone calls because we just feel everything can be resolved over text. But now
Right.
that the pandemic has hit and everyone is like, not like has no connection, then there's more reason to actually get on these calls and make them video calls because otherwise it's strange, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's most people will have a tendency to try to multitask. They just are going to try to do it. We've designed a world where
Yeah.
we've created highly addictive digital devices and experiences, right? Anybody who's paid attention knows that what the notifications and the likes, and whether it's unintended consequences or not, is creating a dopamine hit in your brain, which is the basis for addiction. And so it's really hard to keep people completely focused. And if they don't have their cameras on, it's really easy for them to stop listening and like turn their phone over and look at their phone and go, oh, I felt it vibrate, or that phantom vibrate, right? I think everybody's probably experienced that. Where I swear my phone just vibrated. I thought I heard it. I could have swore I felt, if it's in my back pocket, felt my butt vibrate right there. Oh no, it wasn't that, right? But our brain starts to do that. So having the ability to see each other's faces, and that's part of the connection. When we do our facilitation, we tell everybody well in advance, you're going to have your cameras on. So if that means you have to shower for the first time in a month, hey, you got to take a shower.
Yeah, that's the worst part of it. Not the shower bit, but like making my hair bit. I hate making. I just love it being all over the place, and I love that I don't have to go out and make my hair. Yeah. All right. So the next question is, what does a sales team expect from the marketing team?
Ooh. I what I would say what they expect and what they should expect are two different
Okay.
things.
Okay.
Um, what I see often is that sales teams will expect marketing to give them all of these amazingly qualified leads, and they can't understand why they're not getting more. Right? We constantly hear this, and the truth of the matter is what they should expect is a partner who can help them ensure that the buying journey is as frictionless as possible from first touch point, which is probably more brand awareness, through bringing them into the funnel and handling them off. Marketing should be able to provide, and sales should expect marketing to provide some content that's designed to help from the buyer or prospect's perspective, help them understand why this journey is important to them. They should
Mm,
expect to be able to collaborate and honestly should work seamlessly together. I know there's often a lot of friction between sales and marketing teams, but I started
and
my
product.
career in marketing. Yeah. Yeah, I ran marketing for a software company for almost a decade before I moved into sales. My advanced
Mm,
degrees in marketing, and my success in sales has largely, I believe, been influenced by the fact that I understand what marketing can bring to the table when and where, and how I can work with that to drive more interest, to respond to needs, to anticipate what some of the customers or personas that we sell to are going to need or what problems they may be focused on. For me, I think marketing should, definitely serve as kind of a help the salespeople pull their heads up a little bit so they're not missing the forest for the trees. They're too into the details of what their quota is and all that stuff, and they can
mm.
get lost there. And I think marketing can very easily help pull them back and say, "Hey, look at all of these things, these impacts that we've had or could have." And I believe it's going to require, even moving forward, a more teamed approach to be effective.
Wow, your clarity is really scary. You could say anything. But, but sure, that's a nice way of looking at it. So the bigger picture, and while the sales team is just focused on the smaller picture. But yeah, okay. What makes a good salesperson?
Ah, curiosity,
Oh,
creativity,
okay.
grit, and the ability to listen.
Okay, okay. I love the grit and the pause before the grit. Grit.
That's the one that we miss the most, right? And it's pretty easy to find somebody who's curious, at least. Um,
Mm,
Creativity is it's different, it manifests different ways in different sales reps.
mm,
But the willingness to do the consistent behavior that we know drives to success, do the things that other people don't want to do, and be disciplined, that's becoming harder and harder to find because people are relying so much on the technology. And while the technology is an amazing thing and it's provided some amazing tools for us, people still buy from people.
mm,
So if technology were going to solve the B2B selling problem anyway, it would have done it by now. And so the offshoot of that is people often expect, our patience has decreased because it's instant gratification world all the time. Where some of the sales that you get into, they can take a great deal of time and a great deal of discipline, and people sometimes struggle with that.
yeah, okay. That's a good definition. And the last question is, according to you, what qualifies as a good lead?
Well, I'm not sure I'm the right person to ask that because I believe I believe prospecting has no beginning and no end, and every relationship has the potential to become a mutually beneficial one. So, if I talk to somebody today and they're not focused on problems that I know they can solve or that I can solve, then I'll be
Mm,
happy to introduce them to somebody that will, and that introduction will then they'll remember that. They'll come back when they're focused on problems that they understand I can help them with. So where I would spend my time though is relentlessly qualifying out, DQing, disqualifying people rather than chasing everything. So be really tight on what it is that the outcomes that your organization can provide, your product or service or whatever. If you can find somebody who has problems you can uniquely solve, then they're worth spending the time on. If they're focused on things you can't influence, well, then don't spend the time there because time's the one asset we can't get back. It's the most valuable thing we have. And that includes as a sales rep, although most sales reps freak out if their if their pipeline is too small and they'll chase anything, or they have one big lead and they think that's enough. And so there's a lot of things to to juggle there. But what I look for is somebody who's focused on or understands the problems that we can help address and the impacts that's going to have to the organization so we can make it a priority and a focal point.
That's nice because it's like, every time you solve something that they want, and even if it's not your own company and you're referring some other company, it's collaboration with that other company, and you can expect to have that favor reciprocated from them as well. And I think that's the kind of collaborative ventures that a lot of companies are now engaging in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, if you're not focused on making your customers win, then they're going to
Mm,
go find somebody who will, right? And so
mm,
that means understanding that their definition of winning right now, it may be one that doesn't include anything we can help them with, but we probably know somebody who might be able to help. So make the introduction, collaborate with them, then stay in touch. How did that initiative go? What worked? What didn't? Now we're talking, oh, well, it worked great. Now we're focused on these problems. Oh, those problems I can help you solve. Let's talk about that. And then you can have a much more collaborative, longer term kind of foundational relationship.
okay, and so that was the last question, and thanks for coming on the podcast.
That was my pleasure.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us for this month's episode of Outgrow's Mom podcast. That was Chad Sanderson, who's the managing partner at Value Selling Associates. Do check out their website, and also the host of the award-winning B2B Revenue Executive Experience podcast. Do check out their website once again for more details, and we'll see you once again next month with another Market of the Month. Thanks.